Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers. Today, the subject is Habits, Part 1, from the Mother. Question: Is it the same thing, the same work, to be conscious that the nature must be changed and to master the different parts of the being? Mother: One precedes the other. First of all, one must be conscious, then control. And by continuing the mastery, one changes one's character. Changing the character is what comes last. One must control bad habits, the old habits, for a very long time, for them to drop off and the character to change. Question: What is the difference between the old habits and the old formations Sri Aurobindo speaks about? Mother: It is almost the same thing. Your body, for instance, has certain reactions to cold, heat, hunger, and you are in the habit of having these reactions, and this habit has made a kind of formation in your physical nature. That is, a crease, a fixed crease of the body, and that's how it is. Formations are the result of habits. Similarly, there are formations of character. For instance, if you are in the habit of getting angry when things do not please you, the habit makes a sort of inner crease in your nature, and every time a thing doesn't please you, automatically, without any control, you will get angry. This is what is called a formation. They are habits which have become like a part of your character. Question: Doesn't the inner realization and experiences help in the outer change? Mother: Not necessarily. They help only if one wants it. Otherwise, on the contrary, one detaches oneself more and more from the outer nature. This is what happens to all who seek mukti, liberation. They reject their outer nature with its character and habits as something altogether contemptible, with which one should not busy oneself. They withdraw all their energies, all forces of consciousness towards the heights. And if they do it with sufficient perfection, generally they leave their body once for all. But in the immense majority of instances, they do it only partially, and when they come out of their meditation, their contemplation, their trance or their samadhi, they are generally worse than others, because they have left their outer nature aside without working on it at all. Even ordinary people, when their defects are a little too glaring, try to correct them or control them a little so as not to have too much trouble in life. While these people, who think that the right attitude is to leave one's body and one's outer consciousness completely and withdraw entirely to the spiritual heights, treat that like an old coat one throws aside and does not mend. And when one takes it back, it is full of holes and stains. That does not help. It helps only if one has the sincere will to change. If one sincerely has the will to change, it is a powerful help because it gives you the force to make the change, the fulcrum to make the change. But one must sincerely want to change. Of all the domains of human consciousness, the physical is the one most completely governed by method, order, discipline, process. The lack of plasticity and receptivity in matter has to be replaced by a detailed organization that is both precise and comprehensive. In this organization, one must not forget the interdependence and interpenetration of all the domains of the being. However, even a mental or vital impulse to express itself physically must submit to an exact process. That is why all education of the body, if it is to be effective, must be rigorous and detailed, far-sighted, and methodical. This will be translated into habits. The body is a being of habits, but these habits should be controlled and disciplined, while remaining flexible enough to adapt themselves to circumstances and to the needs of the growth and development of the being. It may be said that from the very first days, even the first hours of his life, the child should undergo the first part of this program as far as food, sleep, evacuation, etc. are concerned. If the child, from the very beginning of his existence, learns good habits, it will save him a good deal of trouble and inconvenience for the rest of his life. And besides, those who have the responsibility of caring for him during his first years will find their task very much easier. Another thing should be taught to a child from his early years: to enjoy cleanliness and observe hygienic habits. But in obtaining this cleanliness and respect for the rules of hygiene from the child, one must take great care not to instill in him the fear of illness. Fear is the worst instrument of education and the surest way of attracting what is feared. So far, I have referred only to the education to be given to children. For a good many bodily defects can be rectified, and many malformations avoided by an enlightened physical education given at the proper time. But if for any reason this physical education has not been given during childhood or even in youth, it can begin at any age and be pursued throughout life. But the later one begins, the more one must be prepared to meet bad habits that have to be corrected, rigidities to be made supple, malformations to be rectified. And this preparatory work will require much patience and perseverance before one can start on a constructive program for the harmonization of the form and its movements. But if you keep alive within you the ideal of beauty that is to be realized, sooner or later you are sure to reach the goal you have set for yourself. To be. And this is for you. You have a whole future before you. You must break you are still bound up in old habits of thought. You have not taken sufficient advantage of the fact that you have lived here all the time. You are still too much like that. So now you must take that. Break everything. Break everything. Break everything. Live only by the light that comes from above. Liberate your consciousness. This is important. It is good that you came. You are still very closed like that, bound up in all the old habits. And there is still something more. There is still the weight of atavism and all that. It is the same for everyone. But well, for the moment it is only, I am still liberating you. You are still like that, like that, like that, like that. Your old habits of thought, your old habits of learning, your old habits, not very old habits of teaching. So all that, break it. Like that, when you go to class every day, before you go to class, you should say a kind of prayer. Make an invocation to the Supreme Consciousness and ask it to help you bring all this mass of living matter under its influence. Then it will become interesting living. There, you see? Yes, these dreams arise from the subconscious. They are primarily subconscious habits, but the pain, the thorns in the garment, it's so clear, Mother laughs, and no way to get comfortable. In the past, a dream like that would nag me for hours. I would worry, wondering what calamities were going to befall me. This was long, long ago, ages ago. But that was idiotic, as I later understood. It's a certain something in the subconscious, a symbolic form of certain bad psychological habits we have. That's all. And I used to torment myself. How can I get rid of this? We're all loaded with a multitude of such weaknesses built into the body. And then, through experience, I understood. I saw it was mostly certain bad habits. The only thing to do is not torment yourself, and to say to the Lord, in all sincerity, of course, it's up to you. Rid me of this. And it is very effective. Very effective. At times I have old things like that dissolved in a flash. Certain inveterate little habits, so stupid, but so ingrained you can't get rid of them. Then, while doing japa, or walking, or meditating, or whatever, suddenly the flame flares up and you have really had enough of it. It disgusts you. You want it to change. You really want the change. And you say to the Lord, I can't do it on my own. You very sincerely know you can't do it. You have tried and tried and tried and have achieved exactly nothing. You can't do it. Well then, I offer it to you. You do it, just like that. And all at once you see the thing fading away. It is simply wonderful. You know how Sri Aurobindo used to take away someone's pain? It's exactly the same. Certain habits bound up with the body's formation. Question. Sweet Mother, you have written, of all renunciations, the most difficult is to renounce one's good habits. What exactly do you mean by this? Does it suggest that good habits are not necessary in the yoga? Mother, good habits are indispensable so long as one acts out of habit. But to attain the supreme goal of yoga, one must abandon all ties, whatever they may be. And good habits are also a tie which must one day be abandoned. And when one wants to obey, and is able to obey, nothing but the one supreme impulse, the will of the Supreme. 14 April 1965. Question. Sweet Mother, which things are truly indispensable for our life? Mother, I don't think they are the same for everyone. It depends on the country, it depends on the habits, and to tell you the truth, if one analyzes very closely, I don't think there are many. You see, if you travel around the world, in every country, people have different habits of sleeping, habits of eating, habits of dressing, habits for making their toilet. And quite naturally, they will tell you that the things they use are indispensable. But if you change countries, you will realize that all these things are of no use for those people, because they make use of other things, which are just as useful for them and seem to them indispensable. Then once again you change the country, and yet again it is other things. So finally, if anyone has traveled a little over the world, he says, but what is really useful? I consider a toothbrush as something indispensable. My neighbor will look at me and tell me, what's that? Your toothbrush? I use my fingers, and it is absolutely all right. And everything's like that, isn't it?